Welcome back to 5 Minute Fantasy Football, presented to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Today, we're going to talk about 2024 Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you check out the other episodes: AFC South, AFC North, AFC East, already done. Check out our YouTube, check out our podcast. Let's talk about the Chiefs. Let's pull up Mike Clay's projections and see how he has them projected for this year. Before we do that, make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy, download Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FFSGPN so they know we sent you. So Patrick Mahomes is going off the board. The Fantasy Pros ADP says QB2. Sleeper has him at QB3. Going off in the third round. Mike has him projected to finish as the third overall quarterback, 4,032 yards through the air, 33 passing touchdowns with 11 interceptions. On the ground, 62 attempts, 337 yards, and 1 touchdown. Mahomes isn't really a runner as far as design runs, but he led the league in scramble yards last year. He's one of the guys that, especially when tight games are going on, he's running for those first downs. And you see him drop back, he's got the huge drop backs that he's famous for. Isaiah Pacheco, he's the lead back, 220 carries. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 87 carries. Keontae Ingram, 22 carries. So Mike has Clyde Edwards-Helaire projected as the handcuff. 978 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns for Pacheco on the ground. 46 receptions, 290 yards, having him finish as the running back 8. Currently, he's going off the board at pick 24 and running back 11. So you're getting a little bit of a discount according to Mike's projections. And of course, if he plays more than 14 games, Mike's only projecting 14 games, he could have more points than 232. But you're looking at 10 total touchdowns and about 1,200 yards total. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 48. He's going off the board as running back 64. So he's got him a little higher than what the ADP has. But we've seen this with CEH, and he's just been a disappointment. I think people are hoping that somebody else emerges. But, Isaiah Pacheco, I think there was a big win this year, them going and re-signing Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus if they were to pick up a DeAndre Swift or another back that could really siphon off some of that pass-catching work. As far as the receivers, this is where it gets interesting because we do not know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice could end up getting suspended 6 to 8 games. He could end up getting suspended nothing and get the suspension rolls into next year. Mike has him, it looks like a 2-game suspension. All the receivers are projected for 15 games except for Rashee Rice, 13. So he's looking at a moderate suspension here. And so with this, he's got Rashee Rice with 94 targets, Marquise Brown, 98 targets, Xavier Worthy, 90 targets. So very, split pretty evenly. Rashee Rice catches the most of them, 68, 793, and 7, finishing as the wide receiver 39. He's going off the board as pick 81, wide receiver 36. Actually, he's going off the board as pick 86, wide receiver 38. Hollywood Brown is pick 81, wide receiver 36, and Xavier Worthy is pick 96, wide receiver 41. So they're all very close. They're all a little lower on Mike's projections than where they're actually being drafted. So people are overdrafting these according to Mike's projections. And part of it is just, again, because of how evenly split he has it. He has, again, Rashee Rice finishing as wide receiver 39, Marquise Brown finishing as wide receiver 45, and Xavier Worthy finishing at wide receiver 48. They're being drafted as Hollywood Brown, wide receiver 36. That's, almost, that's 11 spots, higher, or 9 spots higher than Mike's got him finishing. Rashee Rice is wide receiver 38. That's actually 1 spot above where he has him finishing. And Xavier Worthy is wide receiver 41. That's 7 spots above where Mike has him finishing. None of them are getting 10 touchdowns. None of them are getting 1,000 yards. None of them are getting 80-plus receptions. Split pretty evenly. Again, we'll see how this works out. If Rashee Rice does not end up getting suspended, that could be a lot different for everybody. And if he does get suspended, then Xavier Worthy gets more reps early, and you could see If he does not get suspended, Xavier Worthy do more in the return game. Travis Kelce, this is the first year he's not being drafted as the tight end 1. He's being drafted as the tight end 2. Mike has him projected to finish as the tight end 2. We talked about key performance indicators for the tight end position. You're looking for guys that can be top 2 on their team in targets, top 1 on their team in targets. Well, Travis Kelce, he's getting 108 targets. Everybody else is getting, in the 90s. He's got him finishing with 83 receptions, 836 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's getting Noah Gray as the second tight end, getting a pretty decent amount of targets, 41 targets, 29 catches, 289 and 2. Nothing you're going to look at here for Gray unless, Kelce were to get hurt. But again, Kelce, he's, the interesting thing with him this year is you're actually getting a little bit of a discount. He had a quote unquote off year last year, and his off year was good enough for the tight end 2 overall position this year and tight end 2 overall the year before. And he was only 0.4 points per game lower than Sam Laporta, where the year before he was at a crazy, crazy pace that was 4 points higher than Laporta had this year per game. And so, again, if you're looking at it, Mahomes, honestly, I think he's getting overdrafted a little bit. The 3 spot, yeah, he probably finishes as top 5, top 7 quarterback, but I'd rather go with other options, some rushing upside. Mahomes he didn't do it last year, and I don't know, what we expect this year, but this team is definitely a much different team without Tyreek Hill. They're not as explosive, and so we probably don't see those high TD numbers, and it just comes down to how much rushing you're going to see. He's going to be a good pick, but again, just where he's being picked, I think you could, slide down the board a little bit and get similar production for somebody 3 or 4 rounds later. Isaiah Pacheco, I like where he's being drafted. If you go receiver, and Pacheco as your 3rd pick, and he's your running back 1, I'm fine with that. If you go with Pacheco at the end of the 2nd round in 1 quarterback leagues, I'm fine with that. He's a guy that you're going to get good volume. He's going to be on a good offense to get a lot of touchdown opportunities. Rashee Rice, he's the gamble. He's the one where if you get him where he's being drafted right now at pick 86, it's a pretty good value if he gets 0 games this year suspended. If you're picking him there and he ends up getting 6 or 8 games, then you're out of luck. So like for here, you may just, you may want to stay away and just stick with Kelce, Pacheco. But with these guys, it's going to be tough. Xavier Worthy, we've seen the highlights of him catching bombs. We've also seen the highlights of him not being able to manage press coverage. Marquise Brown, he's been a pretty consistent wide receiver too for the last few seasons. He might be the guy that I'm interested in. It all, again, depends on price. He's going off as wide receiver 36, pick 81. I'm fine with that, and I feel like it's a much safer pick than the Rashee Rice pick. If Rashee Rice ends up, if you're going for the home run, Rashee Rice is probably, got the bigger upside, and again, he has the bigger, the lower floor as well. All right, well, this has been a 5-minute fantasy football. As always, good luck this season.